And now a guy called Jack Lawrence talks to another guy called, sorry, what's your name?
Dave Hughes. Dave
Hughes.
Dave
Hughesy. That's a good idea. Go with a nickname.
Yeah,
it always makes your shit funnier.
Well,
right, Jacko?
Hey. See what you did
Anyway,
there?
I'm going.
Thanks, Kate.
We're about to do a pod. We are doing a podcast. This is the podcast.
This is the very first episode.
You can cut that bit out.
Oh, already the first episode. Wow, thank you.
The inaugural episode.
Yeah, well, I'm honoured, Jack.
Oh, well, hello there. I'd like to take this opportunity to give you a parental advisory. And that being, we'd like to advise the parents of Jack that there be bad language from the beginning, the middle, and the end. You've been warned.
That's what humour's for. It gets us over bad shit. If you can't joke about bad shit, there's no point joking about good shit.
Bus lanes annoy me. I'm stuck in traffic and a bus whips past me. All these poor people get home quicker than I do.
People say comedians that curse and comedians that don't curse, if you use fuck, you're getting an easy laugh. Let's see you go get a laugh with fuck so easily.
You go up to your baby, you can go up to your baby's face every day and you fuck you, baby, like right there every day, it wouldn't matter.
I love jokes so much. The buffet is basically an answer to the question, well, things are bad, how can we make it worse? How could we design a food-human interaction environment that's basically like driving your dog up to Petco, giving him money, and saying, why don't you go in and get whatever you think you should have?
Here we go. It's actually happening. Episode 1 of Sit Down to Stand Up. Welcome. My name is Jack. I'm the host of this podcast. First of all, look, just want to say thank you so much. If you are hearing my voice in your ear holes right now, that's pretty much all I can ask for, because there is a gazillion and one of these things flying around iTunes and everywhere else. So if you're listening to me right now, that means you've chosen mine to have a listen to, and I hope it doesn't disappoint. If it doesn't, and you really do enjoy it, please, even if you just sort of enjoy it, please leave us a review. 5 stars is phenomenal. 4 stars is also brilliant. Anything less than that, I just say, look, don't waste your time. You've got better things to do than complain about my crappy podcast. So do all those things for us. Got so many great comedians coming up for you, and some amazing chats. And of course, at some point, I'm going to be doing my own 5-minute stand-up set somewhere in Melbourne in a comedy club. Not sure where yet. I've got to work that out. I'm working on some material as we speak, which I'm going to also tell you all about. This is going to be as open as I possibly can be. I'll tell you the ideas that I'm thinking of, and that's why I'm getting other comics involved. I want to hear about their stories and how they got into stand-up comedy, why they chose comedy, the best and worst gigs they've done, how they write jokes, because that's obviously a really important part of stand-up comedy is writing the jokes. I'm trying to cheat my way to not bombing on my first gig. However, a common theme with most comedians you'll find when you listen to these chats is they've all bombed. So everyone does it. So I think I've just got to be prepared for the fact that there is a high probability that on my first gig it's going to be the sounds of crickets. I'm prepared, or I'm slowly preparing for that inevitable fact. So many great comedians coming up. Don't forget to subscribe, so every time I upload a new episode, it will drop straight into your inbox. I've already dropped 3 for you because I'm a bloody nice guy. So get all 3, and then next week we'll probably drop another 2 on Friday, and then after that it'll be 1 a week every Friday. My very first episode is with Australia's #1 comedian in the form of Mr. Dave Hughes. Of course, Hughesy has been a household name for many, many, many years. Obviously been on radio as well for a number of years with the equally funny Kate Langbrook. I'm going to get Kate involved with the podcast as well. In fact, I was talking to her just yesterday about how I wanted to get her involved in the podcast. But without further ado, let me introduce my very first guest, Mr. Dave Hughes. Hughesy, thanks for joining me on Sit Down to Stand Up.
Thank you, Jack. I'm sitting down. I was standing up. Now I'm sitting down.
There we go. It's the reverse. Stand
Excellent.
up to sit down.
Definitely.
Mate, thank you very much for doing this. Of course, episode 1 of this podcast of what I'm about to be doing, what you've been doing for the last 20 plus years.
Yes, 1993 was my first stand-up gig, buddy, so that's 22, is it? Is that 25? Is that 27?
Well, I don't know. You did the accountancy stuff, mate, not me. You're usually quite good with numbers. 24
years. It'll be coming up to 25. I want
to go right back. Obviously, you grew up in Warrnambool, which is country Victoria.
3 hours west of Melbourne, southwest on the coast. Very windy and cold and beautiful. The home of Oddball, the movie, if anyone's seen that movie.
Really?
Yes.
Trivia.
Yeah, but it's a very pretty town.
So at what age did you think comedy for you would be something you'd want to do as a career?
I reckon I had the thought at about the age of 12 or 13. I distinctly remember lying in bed thinking, I want to be a comedian. And, I didn't tell anyone for years, but, I had the thought.
Did you like watching a lot of comedy?
Yes, love comedy.
Yeah.
Absolutely. My favourite thing is to watch comedy and, and if I saw a good comedy, like whether it was a comedy movie or some stand-up comedy on a videotape, I'd get my friends around and go watch this. And if they laughed, I would take some of that laughter as credit. I'd take credit for that laughter because I'd introduce them to it. So, so the joy of getting a room to laugh has been with me since I was a child.
So 12, 13, you think comedy might be an idea for a job. How long is it then before you actually try and think about doing it?
Well, years.
Yeah.
22 I think is when I started. But so if I had to do a speech at school, it would be funny. I'd make it funny.
Yeah.
And it came easily to me. And if I won a trophy at footy, or I would get on stage and I would be able to make people laugh.
So any opportunity you got to talk in front of a crowd, you would try and make it fun.
I certainly wasn't. I wasn't instigating those opportunities. I wasn't going. Come to my stand-up show at lunchtime in the schoolyard. Yeah. No, I wasn't doing that. But if I had to go on stage for another reason, I would be funny when I was on stage. So I just knew I had something. I did mates' 21st speeches and just cracked the room up, and it was like I knew I could make people laugh. So at the age of 22, after failing university a couple of times, I went for it.
You were studying to be an accountant, was it? Or you were doing an accountancy degree?
I started IT in 1989. So I started at Swinburne Institute of Technology, which is now Swinburne University in Melbourne. So I went from Warrnambool to Melbourne as a very shy 18-year-old, and I was there for 6 weeks. That was the start of the internet, basically, in 1989. So, I could have been...
You could have been Mark Zuckerberg.
I could be a billionaire, mate. But I could not be...
Comedy's done all right for you, though.
It's done all right. But I haven't got my own ocean liner, though, so I could have. But, I just couldn't be bothered with that, focusing with that stuff. And I went back to... Did 2 years of university closer to home in Warrnambool, and but I distinctly remember failing my last exam, and there was people, I had no idea what I was doing. I was trying to get other people's exam papers and copying them, and my mates also were failing, so that wasn't handy.
Yeah, right.
But as I'm sitting, I was thinking, I want to do comedy anyway, so this is a waste of time.
Yeah.
Life's not always fair, is it? It's not always fair. I don't believe it's always fair. Recent example, Mick Fanning. Yeah, he punches a shark. He's a legend. But I kick my dog, I'm an asshole. That shark's done nothing to him, but my dog is a wanker. Example, at the beach, my dog grabs other dogs' balls and just swims out to sea and just leaves their balls out there. And the owners are looking at me like, do something. I can't. He's a fucking asshole. I would like a shark to eat my dog. There's a challenge for you, sharks. Get into him. No, but sharks love eating surfers, don't they? They do love biting on surfers. Not that surfers worry about it, they just deal with it because they're hard men. Dude just outside Wollongong got bitten by a shark a couple of weeks ago. He got bitten. You know what the surf lifesavers do? He got bitten on the thigh. He didn't die, so we can joke about it. The surf lifesavers said, we're closing the beach for 24 hours. Well, that's going to do a lot of good. What's that going to do apart from give the shark time to get hungry again? First 24 hours is when you want to be out there. Well, he's out the back bloody chomping on his thigh meal deal. And what the surfers say when he came to, he said, don't blame the shark. Well, whose fault is it, mate? Look at your thigh, there's a massive hole there. Now you've got somewhere to put your bong, fair enough, but... What is it, global warming? We're going to blame global warming, are we? People, I don't give a shit about global warming. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but I just don't care. People say, what about your kids? I say, you know how much money I've spent on swimming lessons? And those bastards will be grateful one day.
So 22, you went to Perth.
Yeah.
And that, around the same time, obviously, it's spoken about a hell of a lot, but that's also the time you gave up drinking.
I did. I was a big drinker as a young person. But at the age of, at 22, I gave up. So before I turned 22, actually, I was still 21. and I gave up drinking and marijuana and gave up smoking cigarettes. I went clean.
Everything, just got rid of it all.
Absolutely, and have been ever since.
So, and you said before that you think that if you hadn't done that, you wouldn't be in the position you are now.
I wouldn't have thought so. I reckon I would have had the mental strength. Maybe I would have, and maybe I would have had a great time partying for the last 22 years. But I believe I wouldn't have had the mental strength to follow through with my my ideas, which were to be a comedian. I don't reckon I would have had the mental capacity to get on stage and wouldn't been able to keep my shit together, I don't reckon.
So why Perth?
Well, country Victoria is, we're 3 hours west, so you're sort of a little bit closer to Perth than Melbourne, west of Melbourne. And I had a couple of mates who lived over there, and I had another guy who was driving over there in a panel van, a guy called Rat. And he asked me if I wanted to go with him. And I thought they'd probably got a little comedy scene in Perth, and then I can fail quietly over there. And so,
it is like a different part of it's in its own country.
So you can go over there and, people won't know that you're trying to be a comedian. So that was part of the reason I went over there.
So did you go over there with a plan, like that you were going to book shows or?
I went over there wanting to do comedy, but it was a very vague plan. But when I got there, I immediately found the comedy room they had in Perth. They only had one at the time. They've probably only got a couple now. Yeah. But so I found the comedy room and I booked a gig straight away.
And I've heard that you said that first gig bombed.
Horrible because, it's all very well getting on stage at a 21st or at a trophy presentation night and being funny because you're not meant to be funny. It's expecting to be funny.
Right. Yeah.
But you walk on a stand-up comedy stage, for the first time, you think the whole room thinks that you think you're funny.
Yeah.
And there's nothing more annoying than someone who thinks they're funny and they're not. So when you're on stage and then the first supposed joke, which you haven't really thought out, doesn't fly, and that whole room is looking at you like you're wasting our time, be funny now or fuck off.
Yeah.
And that's in your head. Really difficult. So,
see, this is the thing. A lot of because I know down the pub I can be chatting with mates and make them laugh and crack up because we're just in a social situation. But that's the thing. It's totally different to when you're on a stage. People are there. They've paid money and they're right, funny boy, fucking do your job, make me laugh.
Yeah, even if they haven't paid money, they're paying you their attention.
Yeah.
So it's like I was mortifying. I was mortified. But I stayed on there for probably 5 minutes.
Longest 5 minutes of your life.
I'm only 22, so I shouldn't be thinking like this, but I'm on stage trying to be funny. In the back of my head, going, "Your life is a joke. You are deluded. Why did you think you're funny? You've dropped out of university. You're going to be homeless for the rest of your life. What a loser."
Thinking all that while trying to do a stand-up
gig. Trying to be funny. So for the first time at a stand-up stage, it wasn't going to work.
Do you remember writing that first 5 minutes?
I remember thinking about it. I didn't write it well enough, obviously. I always try to do things, and I still do, of things about my own life, and often they're self-deprecating, things that, you might worry about are generally things that other people can laugh at, So I was doing jokes about it being called Frog at school because my brother's nickname was Frog, and I thought they called me Frog, and then apparently he looked like a frog, and I thought I didn't look like a frog, but maybe I looked like a frog. Anyway, it just didn't fly.
So it bombs. So then how do you pick yourself up and go, okay, well, I've got to keep going?
I actually thought there was one guy there with me who so I had one friend there from Warrnambool, and he was the only one laughing and he was laughing at how bad it went. And so there was no backstage, so I had to walk through the crowd. I was absolutely humiliated. And I was living with Rat, the guy in the panel van who I'd driven over from Warrnambool, which is like a 30 or 40 hour, it's a 45-hour trip actually.
Jesus.
So I was living with Rat at the time. I went back to my apartment, my little shitty flat that me and Rat had in Scarborough in Perth, and he goes, "How'd you go?" I said, "Not very well." And he goes, "Do you know why?" And I said, "Not really." He goes, and he said, "'Cause you're not funny." And so that was a support base I had around me. But I thought if I don't do it again straight away, I'm never going to do it again. So I went back to the same place the very next week after my humiliation the week before, and I got on stage and I kept my dignity. I didn't crack the crowd up massively, but I kept my dignity. I kept my composure, and I got a few laughs about the fact that I didn't get any laughs the week before.
Right, okay.
So it was like, I used that bad experience and got laughs out of it. So, and actually Rove was there that night.
I've heard this, and
he was actually there the first night, or one of those nights.
Yeah.
I think he was on stage the second time I was there, but the first night he was there, and he said that he was inspired to do comedy because I was so bad that obviously anyone's allowed to have a go. So but from that second gig, I kept my composure. I didn't do it for 6 months after that though, because or maybe 3 months, I'm not sure. The whole experience was so stressful.
Yeah.
And like when you start stand-up comedy and you book a gig, like say you book a gig for like 3 weeks' time, pretty much every second in those 3 weeks,
just thinking about
that gig. So I couldn't. But about 3 months later, maybe I saw an ad in the West Australian newspaper. It said new comics were required. I thought, I want to be a new comic still. And so I rang the number, and it happened to be the same comedy club. And I didn't know it was the same comedy club. And the guy who answered the phone, a guy called Don Smith, remembered me. He said, I remember you. You weren't too bad. You should come back and have another go. And I said, yeah, thanks. So I did.
Yeah.
And I got, that third gig, I walked on stage and I just relaxed. It was like, for some reason, my brain just said, you're a winner for just walking on stage.
Yeah.
You have nothing to lose. And that was that epiphany as I walked on stage, which basically started my comedy career, because I got big laughs in that 5 minutes, laughs that were intoxicating. I walked off stage. It was my third time on stage. I walked off stage on a high that I may have never got close to again, to be honest. That might be the biggest high in my comedy career, a 5 minute gig in a shitty little pub in Perth. And but from that moment, I was absolutely hooked on stand-up comedy. And, I wouldn't have had 2 weeks that was 1993. I wouldn't have had 2 weeks without doing it. 24 years later?
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, people might not realise, I know I didn't until I started working with you, just how many gigs you do and how much you work. Like,
but
you're doing it all the time.
I love it.
Like I went into a tiny little fucking joint in St Kilda. Cost me $15 or something to get in, and you're there doing comedy.
Yeah, in front of like 40 people.
Yeah.
I was like, and I saw you. There was that few people. I thought, fuck, what's Jack doing here?
I was trying to hide.
Even in that time, I'm still paranoid though. Even then, I'm thinking, geez, I don't want Jack to be here. Jeez, why is Jack here? I was trying to muck around in front of this small crowd.
Yeah.
And someone I've just started working with is going to see me die. But
did very well.
Yeah, I did die. Thank you.
Yeah.
But yes, I did have that pressure, even though I did.
It's crazy. Even after all these years,
24 years,
you've certainly proved how good of a comedian you are. But still, after all those years, you can still get those thoughts.
And still do. Absolutely. So it's but I love it. I've this weekend I was in Darwin Friday night, Saturday night I did a gig in Melbourne. I love it, man. I love it. I just can't.
Went on a cruise.
I was on a cruise a couple of weeks ago, doing stand up on the cruise. I'll do it anywhere.
Yeah.
I'm looking at my diary now and it's a bit empty, to be honest. And I'm like,
going, why
shit.
Yeah.
What am I going to do? It is my drug.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, you said to me before, like it's just as soon as you get that first laugh, it is just infectious, and
it's intoxicating, and it's the thrill of it and the adrenaline rush of it. I just can't replace it in my life. It's just I need it. and I really, it's not about the money. It's not about
that's it. Because
maybe it's about the ego boost. I don't know, but it's about maybe the laugh is the ego boost, but it is about the laugh.
Yeah. Well, everyone loves to get that instant recognition, like you're doing a good job, sort of thing.
Yeah.
I like my salt. Yeah, Jamie Oliver, I'm Aussie. I like salt. Don't go on our Woolies ads and tell us we shouldn't have salt, mate. Don't do that. Saw an ad recently where he goes, oh yeah, you don't need salt, just chop up some parsley. Live in the real world, mate. Live in the real world. I just at the footy, a bucket of chips. Yeah, you got any parsley for me? Maybe some coriander as well. Want to have a real party? Another ad Jamie did recently where he's eating an apple and he goes, your kids get a free apple when they turn up at Woolies. Oh, thanks, mate. My kids saw that ad and they're bloody just, Dad, let's go to Woolies. No, they're not, Jamie. No, they're not. And guess what, mate? I've been having free fruit at Woolies for 40 years, buddy. So I'm an Australian. We get free fruit when we turn up. First thing I do is go to Fruit and Veg and start my great party. I fill up a bag and I walk around till I'm finished them. Hand the bag to the woman behind the checkout. And Coles, recently Coles said, oh, yeah, people are stealing from the self-serve checkout. Are they, Coles? Are they stealing? Or are they making honest mistakes because they're not trained checkout people? Haven't done a course. Sorry. Not getting paid. I'm a rank amateur. Not my fault. I make mistakes. Yes, I believe that, mangoes look like lemons.
When did radio come into it?
Not too, but full-time radio started in 2001. So I was...
Was that straight to Nova?
It was straight to Nova, yeah. So I'd done a little bit on Triple M, a little bit on community radio with Kate Langbrook, actually, who I'm still working with today, and you are as well.
Yeah.
So we've been together for a long time. But so, so from sort of 95, I moved back to Melbourne. I'd started sort of headlining this little club in Perth and feeling good about myself.
Yeah.
Moved back to Melbourne, back to the bottom rung, and there was like a few shaky gigs starting off in Melbourne again, thinking, oh, God, maybe I'm not funny. Which happens all the time, still happens, but yeah.
Are there different crowds in different states? Like different?
Not really. You know what? It's more about your own mental state as far as I'm concerned. Like people say, it's very easy to blame the crowd, but sometimes it is hard because there's distractions, in a room. You want the room to be focused on the stage, so there's sometimes it's not your fault, but I'd like to think generally if you've got the right attitude, you can make a crowd laugh.
Because a lot of people have said to me that, you've got to find the right room. But, I mean, to me, that's just like, if you could go into a room one night and it'd be amazing, the next night it'd be shit.
Yeah, I agree. You can't, my first night I died, and I've got a big house now. So it's, I would say to anyone thinking about doing comedy, just do every room.
Yeah.
Every room. And some rooms you will die in a ditch, you'll die like a dog, you will just be humiliated and it'll shake your confidence and you'll think, oh my God, this is the worst decision of my life.
I'm really excited about this.
But you'll still learn from that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So take me through the process now. Obviously, you've been doing this for a long time. Things have changed in your life. Obviously, you got married to Holly. You had your kids. And does that change your comedy, obviously? Like, because you talk about different things? Yeah.
You've got to, you want to keep it relevant by continuing to do new jokes. And, I still do jokes from 15 years ago, don't get me like the other night, I'll do a joke that was 15 years old and then the next joke will be one that I thought of, a week ago. So it's like a good joke is can stand the test of time, but you never want to get stuck not doing new ones. So you've got to keep yourself relevant to yourself, basically. So, and every situation you are in life is funny. Like wherever you are in life is funny. Whether you're a rich businessman or a homeless guy, there's comedy wherever you are.
Yeah.
You just got to find the comedy where you are.
So do you just obviously spot the... I know, Raf, your son, says some really funny things, and so he'll say something and you'll just pick up on it? Or
absolutely. And it could be him, it could be a waiter, it could be anyone, it could be me. So it's just keeping open to the things around you and, just write shit down, write notes down. Think that's funny and then write it down and then go to comedy clubs and try it.
Thank you. It is great to be here, no doubt about that. What I'm not happy about, though, is how buzzer technology is taking over fast food joints. Recently, I was at a pizza shop, middle of the afternoon. Walked in, ordered a small pizza for takeaway, went to walk away from the counter to wait for it to cook, and the woman behind the counter said, "You forgot your buzzer." And I said, "Well, I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to stand here." She said, "You got to have your buzzer." I said, "All right." Went back to the counter, grabbed my buzzer, walked back to my place about 3 metres away from her. No one else came in. It was just me, her and my buzzer. It was a very intimate setting, and I watched her make my pizza, put it in the oven. It went through the thing. It dropped out the other side. She sliced it up, put it in the box, walked back to the counter. She was close enough to hand it to me. Nah. By this stage, I had the buzzer in my pocket, and I go, bzz, bzz, bzz. My pocket's going off. But I thought, I'm not acknowledging this. So I just let it go bzz, bzz in my pocket. I could see her getting visibly angry. But she wouldn't say anything to me. It became a Mexican standoff. It buzzed in my pocket for about a minute. To be honest, I almost had an orgasm. Eventually, she got so angry, she said, "Your pizza's ready!" I said, "Shit, you sure it's mine?" There's heaps of other... You sure it's mine?
I was actually started recording this, and I remember we went for a sheesh one night, and I started picking your brain about comedy, and I remember you telling me the story about the chips.
Yes.
That you bought chips. Because I was picking your brain saying, how do you write a joke? Because that's my thing. It's like, I've never written a joke. I don't know how to write a joke. Or I don't know how they sort of form. And you were telling me about the chip joke that you now do in your gig, and I saw it from you talking about it to actually you performing it.
Which one was that? Was that the chips on the...
Yeah, on the side of your seat, on the passenger seat of your car, and the beeping going off.
The beeping from the...
Maybe I bought too many chips.
I bought bought too many chips because the chips was as heavy as a passenger.
So take me through that process of, you bought the chips. Obviously, this really happened to you.
Yeah, really, absolutely. Yeah, you can't. I mean, hopefully, what I want, and I see other comedians do jokes, and I think that didn't happen. I think that's not a real situation.
Yeah, right.
You've made that whole. I mean, obviously, I'm happy to make punchlines up, but the premise hopefully comes from something real.
Yeah.
So in this instance, which is it's a few months ago, we're having some shisha, which is legal.
Very legal and not addictive.
No, absolutely. So, and I told you about the fact I'd bought some fish and chips. I think it was around Easter actually.
Yeah.
And I put them on the passenger seat of my car, and it was actually a hire car, and the seatbelt warning button was going off that someone didn't have their seatbelt on, and then I realised after not long, I realised that the car thought my fish and chips was a passenger.
Yeah.
And so and the line I may have overordered. I think that line came when I was on stage actually.
Right.
I think the first joke I thought of with the fish and chips, and the seatbelt was that I want to put a seatbelt on them because if I crash, I want them within hand's reach. If I'm waiting for an ambulance.
Yeah.
So there's and then the real hero line has become in that little routine, which I should do more because it's a solid routine, is that I think I may have overordered. So which is a very simple line.
Yeah.
But it really resonates with people, and that's what you want. You want simple. Simple is so powerful.
Cars are beeping at me these days. Had a hire car the other day, bought some fish and chips to go and bloody enjoy, sat them on the seat, the passenger seat, driving back to my hotel, and the car's beeping at me. It took me a while I thought, does the car want some chips? Then I realised the car wanted me to put a seatbelt on my fish and chips. My first thought was may have overordered, but you know what? I did put a seatbelt on those chips and I felt good about it. Keep them safe. I thought if I do crash this car and end up in a tangled wreck while I'm bleeding out, I want them within hand's reach. If I die, I want to die with a mouthful of chips. My family will know I died happy.
You say you came up with that line on stage. Do you find you come up with a lot of just off the cuff stuff on stage?
Yeah, when I keep doing it, it's amazing. Sometimes you can be doing it. You can do. I don't want to go behind the curtain too much, but you can do a routine for a few years, and then all of a sudden, on one night, a new line comes up from that routine. It's like, fuck, why didn't I
think of that before?
Think of that 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So you often can come up on stage. Actually, Louis C.K. said something, it might have been a podcast or something, an interview once, where he said he never does the same story the same way twice. So he'll, the heart of the story is there, but you'll come at it a slightly different way. So, and that way it keeps it fresh for him. So, and I read that, and I thought, it's a very handy tip.
I've also heard that he said before in the past that he used to, when he'd go on stage, sometimes he put his last joke first and his first joke last, just to really screw himself over.
Yes,
on purpose, just to try and.
I should do that more often, and sometimes I do. Like you'll do some hero sort of routine that you often close with, and you'll do it early on in the show.
Yeah,
but it's definitely that keeps you fresh, So, and it makes it also it expands your horizon almost, because then you're not so down a solid road, and you can go off sideways and still have you back yourself basically.
Do you find radio easier than comedy, or do you think they're similar? Or
easier than stand-up comedy?
Yeah.
So look, it's with radio you can probably be more subtle, I suppose. But you don't get that immediate feedback. But you walk down the street and people say, "I love your radio show. You and Kate are so funny." So I mean, that is gratifying to hear that.
Yeah.
So you can probably be more so. When you do a live radio show in front of an audience, you probably go for the joke quicker.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether that's good or bad. So I think people are driving along. It's probably a more relaxed spot where you can be subtler, I suppose, and hope people get onto it.
Do you find doing the radio helps with the stand-up? Like, because I hear that, the more creative you are constantly, in your day-to-day life, the more creative you become, I suppose.
Yeah, look, I think what the good thing about it is that it keeps you in the moment.
Yeah.
So if you're doing part of it is you're doing a radio show, whatever, working at all keeps you in the moment. So sitting around dwelling on, your last night's, the moments you fucked up in last night's gig is not healthy, I don't think. So Yeah, so in a way, I think it does help. And there's a lot of ideas I come up with on radio which can become stand-up ideas. And I do, radio makes me look around for material every day.
Well, that's the other thing that amazed me when I started working with you guys is how much gear you actually, you'll come in and you'll have spoken to someone on a plane and you got their number and where they worked and all that sort of stuff. So your brain is always thinking of, okay, content.
Absolutely. And, we like to keep the radio show as personal as possible. So, most of our content on the radio is personal stories, not just what was an odd spot in the newspaper or the big story of the day. So, I love the personal. Love it more than anything. We had couples gastro, me and my wife. You know what? Sometimes when you have a romantic coupling and it gets so hot and heavy you have to change the sheets, you know what I mean?
Right.
Well, that happened.
Really?
But not for the reason why you'd think it would.
Oh, really?
Yes.
You had to change the sheet.
We're talking...
What rubber sheets?
We're talking...
Oh, no.
We're talking leakage.
Don't. Oh,
leakage.
No, don't.
Unabetted, unfettered.
Oh,
no wall, no damn wall.
Oh, dear.
I mean, that is just... You okay?
That's almost...
What is
That's almost time to get hospitalised, isn't it?
I actually thought I should go to hospital last night.
Who?
I was lying in bed.
Please.
No, I can't.
Oh, what was her?
I want to talk Logies. Most recent Logies. Obviously, you've hosted Logies for a number of years now.
Well, I've done the opening, so you can call it. I've handed out at the end of the night, handed out the gold Logie, and I've also done the opening last couple of years. But I've done the opening last 3 years, and I've done a lot of spots at the Logies for many years.
Yeah. I mean, and the most recent one, would you say that's been the one where you've got the most?
Attention.
I mean, because it was incredible. I was getting messages from people going, "Have you seen Hughesy on the Logies?
Yeah.
It is amazing."
You know what? I mean, that is a lot of work for me as well, and a lot of stress as well. It's probably most stress I have in a year. Is that getting that 10, 15 minutes together.
If it's that stressful, why do you do it?
Oh, well, because of the challenge
Yeah.
and the positive feedback when it goes well. You feel like you've climbed a mountain, so to speak. That is really gratifying. But it's the scariest things, if they go well, are the most gratifying. So, yeah, absolutely.
So how long would it take you to work on that opening? Because what has it, 10-minute opening, is it?
Oh, I think it's up to nearly 15 last. I think one most recent. Quite a while.
Yeah.
And, you open up to ideas that you can come with. And then, this one was during the Melbourne Comedy Festival, so I'd be on stage during the Melbourne Comedy Festival doing an hour show, and then I would go to another comedy club after that and just run some material I thought I'd do at the Logie. So I was doing that every night for a couple of weeks.
Because I've heard you say in another interview that you actually have sometimes used the crowd and said, okay, you're going to be Warnie,
yeah,
you're going to be this person, and then you try the jokes on those people.
Yes, absolutely. And so the crowd, often look slightly nonplussed as to why is he bothering with this? What is this? But, in my head, I know what I'm doing. So when you get out to the Logie stage, which, for years has been a blood sport where people just want to slag off the host of the Logies and just want to call the Logie shit and say it's not funny and just spend hours celebrating the fact that the host's opening fucking died. So they're ready to do that, and they'll do it for me more than anyone. There's people who are ready to hate me really quickly.
Yeah.
So you want to get it as bulletproof as you can. So
I've seen you in comedy a couple of times now, and your stuff, there's nothing offensive about your comedy at all. It's sort of, it's relatable, it's funny, and it's very enjoyable. But I mean, there's a few. You obviously went for Grant Hackett, the joke about Grant Hackett, which was hilarious. And it's sort of, people obviously come out and go, oh, you can't have a go at someone because they've got, mental health issues.
Yeah.
Did you think about that while you were coming up with that joke, thinking, should I go there or?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did. Absolutely. First off, I thought it was a funny joke. So, which is, the main thing. It's got to be funny.
It's very clever too, because most people see Grant Hackett post a photo of him being punched by his brother and just go, "Oh, what a dickhead!" You connect the two with Kim Jong Un and his brother, and it was a very, very funny, clever joke.
Yeah. Grant Hackett, I'm going to rehab again. Well, listen this time, all right? So. I love Grant Hackett too. He's a great Australian, but he's been a bit whingy. You see him on Instagram, he put a selfie of himself with a black eye and said, look what my brother did. Well, that's what brothers do, Grant. You bloody be a dick and they give you a clap, Look on the bright side, you could be Kim Jong-un's brother. So...
That guy is not whinging on the Instagram.
So yeah, I knew it was a funny joke, and it's an out there joke. It's a joke that no one else is going to do.
Yeah,
it's a unique joke to me. And and it's close to the edge.
Were you worried about it?
I was not particularly worried.
No.
I just, in hindsight, I might have. I wasn't that worried. Grant contacted me afterwards and said, "Funny, fine, mate, yeah. Funny." And so I knew that he. Well, I didn't know. He might have been really angry, but
it's never usually the people that you're joking about get offended. It's people that get offended on their behalf.
So yeah, that's as long as it's funny. You don't want to offend. I mean, I'm not.
And it wasn't nasty.
No, you're not necessarily being mean. But I mean, I think people have thrown the mental health card around probably a bit too much, to be honest. So yeah, I'm happy with how that played out, even though I did cop some flack.
And another clever one was the wrong girl joke about Tim Warner. We joke about, obviously he's like, I've never worked Channel 7, probably never will again. Was that another one where you thought, should I really, career limiting maybe to have a go at Tim Warner?
You know what the thing about doing jokes which, sort of personal attacks, or not even that, but sort of you're personalising a joke. If it doesn't get a big laugh, you just look like an unfunny arsehole. So, a joke that isn't offensive, if that doesn't get a big laugh, no one cares.
Then you're just a dickhead.
But a joke that could be seen to be offensive and doesn't get a big laugh, well, then you are just an arsehole.
Yeah.
So,
luckily, they all got very big laughs.
Well, yes, and that was one, yeah.
And another one where he wasn't worried about it at all.
No, I know, but people on his behalf were worried.
Yeah.
Hey, how about Jessica Murray? She's up, brilliant actress. She's up for 2 shows, really. She's up for Channel 9's Love Child and Channel 7's The Wrong Girl. Or Channel 10, sorry. No, sorry, Channel 7 were working on a pilot of The Wrong Girl. That was starring their CEO, Tim Warner, and... that was more a reality show, and he picked the wrong girl to mess with. It was going really well, but they thought it was too expensive, and they've tried to cancel it. But I've never worked on Channel 7, and I probably never will.
What the thing is, when I was just about to walk on stage, and I thought, fuck, I'm going to say that The Wrong Girl was a Channel 7 show. And that just occurred to me just before I walked on stage, so I did not get a chance to practice this.
Because that worked so well, because everyone in the crowd's like, oh, no, he was on fucking 10.
I know, and so I thought I'm going to need, hopefully, people will yell that out from the crowd.
Yeah.
But it was a real leap of faith, thinking, will they yell it out? Oh, fuck, I'm going to do it. Will they yell it out? And they did, and then it just worked perfectly for me. And it was one of those moments where I just said it to the producer just before I said, I'm going to do this one. He goes, you sure? I said, yeah, no, I think I am.
It's amazing to have that confidence to walk it just before you're about to do your opening to the Logies to change up your gag.
Yeah, absolutely.
That you've probably been working on for a long time.
You know what, that's one I really hadn't worked on because it was so specific to TV that I really felt like audiences that weren't that audience wouldn't really get it. So I never really practiced that in comedy clubs like I did some of the other ones.
Yeah, sure.
So yeah, that was really satisfying. You're really satisfying, actually.
No, but it's not all great for Channel 10. The Biggest Loser didn't work out this year, did it, Shannon? No, it didn't work out, You can still catch it at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. But no, it's a great show. It is a great show. But they had thin people on. That wasn't going to work out. I love opening night, weigh-in night. I was sitting down and I heard someone say they weighed 75 kilos. I looked up and think they better be 2 foot tall. They were normal size. I weigh 88. How can I enjoy my nachos watching that? Opening night of bloody Biggest Loser. I want people to be craned out of their houses. I want the first weigh-in to be done on the Hume Highway at a track Weybridge.
Now, before we wrap up, because we obviously, for those listening, this is a Monday and we've got a radio show to do. We're in early because we just spoke to Kathy Griffin, which was an interesting one.
Well, it's Kathy. Kathy's mad. She's mad anti-Trump, and I was trying to say to Kathy, do you think that people are too focused on Trump, and that led her
to go on a massive rant,
a Nazi rant about how Trump supporters are deranged, without her realising that she
sounded deranged,
completely deranged. On that topic, Kathy, Americans have lost their mind. I know there's a lot of fun to be had, but Americans have lost their mind over Trump, haven't they? But do you at some point are people going, we need to talk about something else in our lives? Do you know what I mean? Is that the obsession has gone beyond next level, hasn't it?
Well, I think the obsession is because it's really affecting everyone. I mean, first of all, these Trump supporters are psycho-Nazis, so let's get that out of the way. So I'm not saying every Trump voter, that's our big thing. You can't say every Trump voter is a Nazi. But, we all saw Charlottesville. Remember when the Nazis had two sides? Yeah, screw this moron. He's got to go. We know that we have a portion of our population that is being run by a possible Nazi in the White House. And there are some, it's like Scientology. These Trump people are like Scientologists. Like, they don't listen to reality. They don't listen to reason. And they're going to follow this guy off a cliff. And it's our job now to not let that happen.
Have you ever been given one great piece of advice when it comes to comedy by anyone in particular, or one piece of advice that you could pass on to me for this?
Yeah, look, what I say, I haven't been given one great piece of advice, I don't think. Well, the advice I give myself is that it doesn't matter, is that you've got to realise the whole thing is funny. Whether you get on stage and people laugh or not, it's funny. Life is funny.
Yeah.
And it's hard sometimes because we get criticised, and I get criticised, and I'm like, it hurts me.
Yeah. Still now, from his very big house, he still goes.
Some guy in his basement in some country town will say I'm not funny, and I'm in my, not mansion, but I'm in my
lovely
big house. Yes, my share portfolio. I want to drive around to that guy's house and kick him to death. So it's still...
But it doesn't matter. Ultimately, it doesn't matter.
And you know what? Ultimately, the things that go wrong in your life are the best material.
Yeah.
Seriously, it's when shit goes wrong is that you get the best jokes. So, yeah, just go for it.
All right. Dave Hughes, thank you so much. I'm recording my first stand-up, and then I might play that to you.
Yeah, good.
And see what you think.
Yeah, just keep thinking about your jokes. You can't, just keep working.
My thing is, I've got a lot of stuff written down, but the thing is, you don't know if that's funny until you're on that stage.
Absolutely.
And it's too late.
But also, it might be funny one night, not funny the next.
Yeah.
So it might kill one night, and the next night the audience is going, "What? That's just shit."
Comedy is such a hard. Why do you do it?
Because of that reason. Because you never know, and it's when. It's when you
stressful.
When early on it was the worst because you're not consistent. So you'll do a gig and it'll be killer, and you think I'm now a professional comedian.
Yeah, that's it.
And the next night the crowd just look at you going, "What the fuck's this guy talking about?" And you realise they're just words.
Yeah,
like you're just saying sentences.
Yeah,
and no one has any interest in them.
No, some nights they laugh at them, some nights they don't.
Yeah.
All right, mate. Thank you so much indeed for your time.
Cheers, Jack. Good luck, mate.
Thank you. There he is, the very funny Dave Hughesy Hughes. Very, very enjoyable chat. And it is amazing to hear how someone as successful as Hughesy can still get nervous on the stage if he spots, as he said in that, he spotted me at one of his stand-up gigs and then started thinking, he said, oh God, what's he doing here? I'm going to bomb in front of this person that I've only just started working with. Fantastic chat with Mr. Dave Hughes. So I hope you enjoyed that. Don't forget, give us a rating and a review. And how about you jump on to the next episode? Because there's another one waiting for you. It's just there. See? Look, there. All right. See you in the next one.
Thanks for listening to Sit Down to Stand Up with your host, Jack Lawrence. One man and his journey to the comedy stage. Subscribe now.